Well, hello and welcome to Geoscope here on Politics Social. I am Graham Hughes. Nice to have you with us tonight. We're hoping to have Femi Oluwole will come and join us at some point, we hope, in the next hour. So watch this space. Unfortunately, Ollie couldn't make it tonight, so Femi gallantly stepped in his stead, but he's been out and about today, so I don't know if he's back home yet. But as soon as I know if he's going to be turning up, I will let you know. And we'll crack on with the show. Okay, so first of all, I'd like to say a big hello to Joanna, who was here dead early, putting messages in the chat. Hey, Joanna. We also have Pete's Music in there. We've got Richard. We've got Sarah Davis, Paula Thomas. Got blah blah CW. We have also got Diz in there as well. And also Liam Fairhurst and Saz is in the chat. Hello, Saz. So big shout out to everyone in the chat. If you want to join our friends in the chat, all you need to do is hit the subscribe button and wait for approximately a minute, and you'll be able to add your opinion. So I'm gonna when Femi comes, if Femi comes, I'm gonna be talking about. I'll leave that out till he shows up. I'm gonna be talking about Gaza. I'm gonna be talking about the world's reactions to Gaza. Oh, here he is. Hello. Femi, can you hear me? I can hear you. Just give me 1 second. I just need to adjust your audio properties.
Testing. 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3.
Everyone can hear Femi. Yep. Let's go over to Femi. Yeah, there he is. Hi, Femi. How you doing, mate?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm kind of like just a bit conflicted at the moment because I don't want to give Trump any credit for what has happened in the Middle East, and I just want to kind of criticize him for not doing this 9 months earlier. It turns out that the whole peace deal was written a year ago, and he's only just now turning up and going, "Oh, this will be a good idea, won't it?" After tens of thousands of people have died. So how are you feeling? Are you feeling a bit sort of elated that this has happened, but angry that it's taken so fucking long?
So I was in a debate recently about should we be thanking Trump for the hostages? And I, as somebody on our side of the argument, was put in that really difficult position of having somebody who is a family member of the hostages actually his voice on the radio, and I was like, well, shouldn't you be thanking Trump? This guy's explicitly saying it's because of Trump that my family has been rescued.
Oh God!
And my response was, look, there were 251 people that were kidnapped on October 7th, 2023. We've just had 20 be released, and there are 80,000 dead Palestinians. You could bring on family members of any single one of those people that are still alive, and they would say the exact opposite thing. Not one of them would be thanking Trump since he took office. But in March he'd already sold 3 billion weapons to Israel, and I think it was 2 days ago or yesterday it was
3 billion weapons. That's a lot of weapons. That's more weapons.
$3 billion. Sorry.
I was going to say, bloody hell.
Sorry, 3 billion in weapons. Sorry,
got a bit nuts there.
And yesterday when they were having their celebration in the Israeli parliament, the Knesset, Trump was saying how every time, constantly, Bibi Netanyahu would be on the phone to me saying, "Can I have this weapon or that weapon? Weapons I've never even heard of, but we managed to make them. We got them to you, and they're the best weapons in the world." Like, he's literally been bragging about the extent to which he's been complicit and facilitated a genocide.
Yes.
So you can say, "Yay, it's coming to an end, coming to an ish." Well, it's slowing down because we still had 6 Palestinians shot by the IDF today.
Yes.
But to suggest that there should be any degree of thanks or praise going to him, the way I put it is, it's the same thing you get when people on the right say, "Oh, but Britain ended slavery." Yeah, after doing it for like 120 years.
Yeah. After profiting from it.
Yeah, if you no longer do a crime after you committed a crime, you don't suddenly escape jail. You still committed that crime.
Yeah.
Like,
it's all right. I haven't murdered anyone for a whole week, Femi, so you can't really put me in jail.
Exactly. It's like it's also, the person took the.
There's the thing about slavery that it became uneconomically viable, especially with the Industrial Revolution. It was just cheaper to pay people fuck all to do a job and make them live in their own home and sort out their own food. Effectively, it was cheaper. It was it was never a bloody moral, conscientious thing. Even some of the abolitionists had shares in these mining companies that put British children down mines and stuff like that. You know, the idea that they woke up one day and went, oh, this slavery thing is a bit morally repugnant, isn't it? They went, yeah, actually, now that you come and mention it. And that's why they stopped it. And also, it gave the British an excuse to just go and take any French, Portuguese, Spanish ships. They found Dutch ships that had slaves on it and take everything they had on board and, keep it for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same mentality we've got now. The same mentality that thinks it's okay to treat 80,000 Palestinian people as just bodies for the slaughter is the same mentality that thought it was okay to sell human beings back then. We haven't changed. We haven't evolved scientifically. It's the same. We're the same humans that were capable of doing it back then. So, of course, they're able to do it now.
Yeah. I mean, there is... finally, we're here. Finally, we're at a point where there is a ceasefire. The final 20 living hostages have been handed over to Israel. 2,000 prisoners and people who have been detained by the Israelis has been handed back to Gaza. It's a perilous slope forward. And you can just see, if this doesn't work, Trump's going to blame everyone else. He takes the credit when it goes his way. But what I was saying on my show this morning, I think it was this morning or maybe yesterday, it's could you imagine if it was Biden or if it was Kamala Harris? And they were turning up in Sharm El-Sheikh and saying, oh yeah, I did all this. I'm the only one who matters. Everyone had to listen to me. I did this. Imagine if Obama had done that talk about when he gave the speech about the assassination of Osama bin Laden and been like, I shot him myself. I actually just got back from Pakistan. I killed him myself.
Yeah.
And it's just oh my God, can't you just do one thing with just a little bit of grace, a little bit of decorum, and he has to make it all like WrestleMania.
We're dealing with sociopaths here, like a proper narcissist. He's the narcissism of Donald Trump. It has no limits, and so when he stood there being praised, at no point did he stand up and say, "All right, this isn't really about me. This is about the Israeli hostages. This is about the Palestinians who've been killed." There's none of that. No. He's a complete narcissistic sociopath, and that's what we're dealing with.
And so, I mean, one of the interesting things about this is how clearly nose point at a joint Netanyahu is. He is not a happy man. You can see that he wasn't there when. Was he? I don't even think he was there when Trump was in the parliament. I'm not sure.
Oh no! On this one, he was there.
So is that the one where they were fawning over him and licking his ass?
Yeah. So yesterday in the parliament, you had Trump. You had.
We didn't go to Sharm El-Sheikh.
He may not go into that.
Okay.
But in the Israeli parliament, he was there. In fact, that was the point where Trump, towards the end of his speech, said he turned to the Israeli president, President Herzog, and said, "Hey, and I have an idea. Give this guy a pardon. Come on, give him a pardon." So he explicitly told the president of Israel to pardon Netanyahu on the corruption charges which have been hanging over Netanyahu's head since before October 7th, which one could argue that everything that's happened in Gaza since October 7th has kind of saved Netanyahu's ass because he hasn't had to go through all that. And now that might be starting up again. And the worst thing is, it's not just that Trump said it, and it's that the entire parliament stood up with a round of applause and a standing ovation for a minute in response to a foreign leader telling their leader to pardon one of their leaders for corruption. Yeah, yeah.
Well, Bolsonaro needs to be pardoned, doesn't he? In Brazil, or Trump's not going to take off the 50% tariffs that he's put on Brazil. But yeah, I mean, I felt like Netanyahu had been railroaded into this. That might, it remains to be seen. But what do you see as sort of? I'm going to ask you to stare into the crystal ball or whatever. But what potentially could happen next? Someone's saying in the chat that the George R.R. Martin will finish a Song of Ice and Fire series before
we'll get GTA 6
peace is
first.
declared in the Middle East. But yeah, what can you see happening moving forward?
So for me, the genocidal intent of the Israeli government has been clear since pretty much the start. So the idea that they are actually going to let let the Palestinians live a life of peace, I just don't see it. They want that land. They believe it's theirs. And also in terms of how this deal plays out, the next step of it is for Hamas to disarm itself.
Yeah.
And Hamas has already said that they'll only do that if they're handing over their weapons to an authentically Palestinian body.
Yeah.
Now the problem with that is like, it's why I've always said, that scene from Avengers 1, Avengers Assemble, where Loki and Iron Man are chatting in the penthouse, and Loki's just like bragging about how he's managed to piss off every single one of the Avengers, and Iron Man's like, not a great plan. And that's kind of what we're dealing with here. Like the stated aim of the Israeli government since the start was, we have to destroy Hamas because we can't tolerate neighbors that want to destroy us. Well, congratulations, you've created an entire generation of Palestinians who want to destroy you because you've killed everyone they've ever loved.
But also, I mean, it could be argued that actually Hamas, who've been in charge since about 2006, 2007 in the Gaza Strip, at least there weren't, that they were the sort of, they were seen all the time as a terrorist group, and every few years they get enough rockets to start firing rockets into Israel, and Israel would respond tenfold, as Israel always does. But meanwhile, in the West Bank, where the Palestinian Authority was in charge, the Israelis would allow people to just turn up with a gun and a Bible and just, a Torah, and just declare that a house or a village or an entire town was just theirs. And so the area of Palestine, which is seen as sort of the more peaceful area, you could argue, I mean, before all this happened, they were getting screwed more than the people who were living under Hamas, because at least the people living under Hamas knew that no one was going to come kick down the door and say, right, this is ours now. And the protection that the settlers have had, you've probably seen the map, haven't you, of the West Bank, where it's just all its little potholes everywhere, or little places where settlers are moved in. And that is, I just, how are you going to untie that? How are you going to untangle that absolute mess? Are you going to draw borders around houses and around farms? Say, well, this is Israel.
Well,
the space between it is Palestine.
Nobody who genuinely wants a two-state solution can do anything other than genuinely re-solidify the West Bank into its own solid, continuous landmass. Otherwise, you're just not serious, because that's not sustainable. Because you're creating a situation where every little pocket of Palestinians feels surrounded and feels like they're literally cornered, and that's not a place for peace. You're turning them into cornered animals. And it pisses me off. What I saw today was this. There was a news story about infighting among Palestinians, like fighting between Hamas and some Palestinians that's been taking place. And I saw some right winger on Twitter saying, "Oh, look, they're fighting each other now. The left doesn't want to talk about this." Sorry, you turned Gaza into a wasteland with no resources, and now you're pointing the finger at these people because you've made them desperate. Yeah. Like, it's truly disgusting, and it happens in every single branch of politics, whereby those who have power completely deprive the resources necessary for certain groups in order to survive, and then they actually then point the finger at the crime in those areas that they themselves have made desperate.
Yes, they do this a lot. But then also you could look at Northern Ireland and say, well, that's Christians fighting against each other. It's just different flavours of Christians. But also, it wasn't a Muslim who shot Yitzhak Rabin. It wasn't a Muslim who shot Gandhi. It was one of their own, effectively. So yeah, I mean, you're always going to have some groups in any given situation, volatile situation, angry young men, they've got guns. What do you think is going to happen? We saw this in Afghanistan, after the Russians were pushed out of Afghanistan by the Mujahideen, and then the country was awash with guns, and young men who have had no formal education, who knew absolutely nothing but war. And surprisingly, the place fell into civil war. I couldn't see that happening. And that's the sort of thing that we need to make sure there is a proper international peacekeeping force that's not controlled by the IDF in any way, shape, or form, not controlled by America, that the people of Palestine can find acceptable to have in their country to keep the peace and while this transition happens. Are you hopeful? Is there a little bit of you that's like, oh, it might work, or have you just looked at the 20-point planning and no?
Well, like I said, what I was saying, like, because Hamas is only saying they're willing to hand over power and weapons to an authentically Palestinian body, the Palestinians have essentially been radicalized even further against Israel by Israel's actions.
Yeah.
And so whoever they hand it over to, when that sort of democratically evolves, Israel's going to look at that and say, no, this is just Hamas 2.0.
Yeah.
And so I don't see how you get to a position where whatever authority rises up within Gaza is somehow deemed to be something that Israel would agree to. And if Israel doesn't agree to it, then who's going to stop them just continuing again?
But at least one of the 20 points is Israel out of Gaza. Like, that is one of the points.
Yeah, but they've got their hostages back. What's stopping them going in now? Like, who cares?
Not all of them.
From their perspective. Pardon?
Not all of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, it will be international condemnation, but what's that achieved so far?
Yeah, they've had a bunch of that.
Exactly.
That's not stopped them. So essentially, is there going to the only way that they get stopped is if America or some other Western power with enough threat to stand up to America stops Israel, and I don't see that happening. So it's difficult for me to feel hopeful about the situation.
Yeah. I mean, it's hope that gets you in it. That it could. But it is a really, really grim situation that we're here now in 2025. And there's so many people around the world at each other's throats. The right are seeming to just be riding this wave of populism that doesn't seem to be being battered away in any effective way by the centre ground, by the left. And they're using this as now a huge win to say, oh, you can't even say congratulations, can you? A little bit of gratitude wouldn't go amiss. And you're like, fuck off. This should have happened a long time ago. And it would have happened a long time ago had countries like America under Biden and Britain said straight away, no, you're not having these bloody weapons if this is what you're going to do with them.
Yeah. And I think the people that say, can't you congratulate Trump? Can you guys open your mind a bit and think, but were we praising Biden? Were any of us particularly happy with what Biden was doing? Because Biden was also selling weapons while this was going on. Like, we are not happy with either Trump or Biden because we are consistent. Yeah. Like, I'm not happy with Starmer because I am consistent. Like, it's such a dumb argument because we are the ones that are being consistent. You're accusing us of being party political. That we can't congratulate Trump because Trump is on the right. No, we're not happy with our side either.
Well, me and Tan get it in the neck all the time about the fact that we campaigned for Labour in the last election. And I'm like, well, actually, we were part of a tactical vote group that was saying vote tactically. So actually, depending on where you were, I was saying vote Lib Dem, vote the Greens, vote the SNP, vote Plaid Cymru, vote anyone but the Tories. And now we may have to do something similar for against Refuck. But I find that frustrating, the whole thing of like, there are a group of people, and they're not necessarily on the right, that go, oh, I love this particular politician, which is a weird stance to have. I don't love any politician. I mean, they're politicians, man. Never put anyone on a pedestal. They'll only disappoint you. But they can't comprehend the fact that someone who's on the left like you isn't in love with Keir Starmer. You must love him, surely. And you're like, no, he's just some guy. On
that point,
he's just some guy.
I've actually been waiting to make a point about this because I obviously not a fan of Corbyn, from the Brexit years, I have obviously there's a section of Corbynites who think that I'm some neoliberal, Starmer loving, Blair loving, whatever, blah blah blah. And I just realized I have actual footage of me voting in 2019 and in 2024, which proves that in 2019 I voted for Corbyn, and in 2024 I voted for the Greens. So when I had the opportunity to vote for Corbyn, I voted for Corbyn. When I had the opportunity to vote for Starmer, I voted against him.
Does it make any difference? Does it make any difference, Femi?
To these people, it won't make a jot of difference because they're absolutely insane.
Yes. But the idea of putting any politician, whether it is Trump or Boris Johnson or Nigel Farage, on a pedestal, it drives me up the wall. And it's one of the few things that I actually like about Starmer is the fact that there is no for Starmer fan club. Like, honestly, you go around trying to find someone who thinks Starmer's amazing, and you'll be searching a very long time. It might be McSweeney. He's probably the only person, and that's why Starmer keeps him on, because he just prances around Starmer all day, going, "You're amazing, you're wonderful, all your ideas are great."
Yeah,
such a great communicator.
I need Starmer to go as soon as possible. I need that man to be completely dethroned as soon as goddamn possible.
I don't, and I'll tell you why. I think, right, that he should stay in while Labour are having to do all this unpopular shit, like bringing higher taxes for rich people and all this kind of stuff. No. And so he gets the blame, and then he can be our sacrificial scapegoat, and we can then send him off into the wilderness, and someone else can stand in the next election and take them forward.
But Starmer isn't doing the good shit that needs to be done to save the country.
I didn't say it was good shit.
If that was the plan, if the plan was to do what needs to be done and take some flack, then as soon as he took office, he should have taken us back into the single market and customs union, given us proportional representation, tax the fuck out of top income bracket, and done all that stuff, and then fallen on the sword. But the thing is, he wouldn't have fallen on the sword because all those policies are popular. Like, if the point was to
they're not popular with the people in charge of the means of communication.
Yeah, of course, the
there's your issue there.
Going to hurt him, but people would watch the living standards go through the roof, and then nobody would care.
Yeah, but it is interesting, isn't it? Like the way that when they try to do something that does generally affect the rich, like VAT on private schools, the media go absolutely fucking crazy, and people who don't have kids in private school didn't go to private school themselves. They're like, "Oh, this is a disgrace." And I met a guy who was I've told this on the channel before, but I met this bloke at the airport in Manchester when I was waiting for my luggage to come out on the carousel, because I bought a tiny bottle of hot sauce from Costa Rica, and I had to check my bag in because of it. It was so annoying. I never check my bag in. Anyway, so I'm waiting, and he's going off on one about inheritance tax. And I'm like, "Mate, are you a millionaire?" He went, "No." I said, "Okay, your kids aren't going to have to pay any inheritance tax. It's as simple as that. It's £1 million tax-free if you've got a partner and you leave a house. £1 million, Jesus!" And he was like, he was freaking out. This is just some, Manchester guy, proper Mancunian, who's like, "Oh, I've heard it's really bad." And so you see that when you try and bring in these sort of around the edges taxes, people go crazy. But like the one about the inheritance tax blows my mind because bringing it in on farmers. I'm like, are you a farmer? No, why do you care? But there wasn't this massive loophole, wasn't there, that you could just buy a load of land and then you didn't have to pay an inheritance tax.
Well, yeah, you're Jeremy Clarkson types.
Yes, didn't he buy his farm just so he didn't have to pay? His kids didn't have to pay inheritance tax.
He's literally said that was the reason he said online that that's the reason why he bought his farm. So yeah, like, and the thing is, like, there are taxes that they could do if they hadn't tied their hands with this no taxes on working people stuff, which for me came from a mess up from like 2023, I think it was, when Starmer went on to LBC with Nick Ferrari, and he was asked, "You talk about working class, define working class," and Starmer couldn't define working class, and so now they've gone with working people. But that covers everybody who technically works, which includes people in the top income bracket, and that's meant they've essentially tied their hands and prevented themselves from properly taxing the rich. Now, yes, we should prioritize taxing wealth over taxing work, But taxing wealth is obviously a little bit more complicated because people move the wealth around. But
Yeah.
by tying his hands, it's left him doing things like taxing private schools, doing the national insurance hike, which they themselves admitted would only put pressure down on wages when they should just be taxing the rich, and also just rejoining the EU single market. But again, they tied their hands because not
Yeah.
rejoining the single market in my lifetime. There are things they could do. They're choosing not to do them.
He
So if the
didn't
whole
need to
idea,
say that. That's what's so frustrating, isn't it? He didn't need to say
yeah,
that.
yeah, and
But just
and
like,
the
I'll
thing
keep the
is,
options open. Anything's on the table. Whatever's best for Britain. We will do whatever is in the British people's
mhm.
interest. That's the
And here's
answer.
the thing,
He's so shit at it. He's so shit at this game. It's like
and the thing on
watching
top of
someone
that
play
is,
pool really badly in front of you, and you just want to take the cue off them and go, "Here you go."
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
No, you hit the ball with this end, Kia.
It's genuinely so frustrating because we got told for a very long time, just trust Keir Starmer. He's got a plan. He's got to say the stuff to get the Tories out. Basically, trust him that he's lying to you right now. And then, and so you would think, all right, cool. If that's the plan, then that means that as soon as you get into power, you shouldn't care about all the stuff that you've said during the election. You shouldn't care about no taxes on working people. You shouldn't care about not rejoining the single market, because you should just do what needs to be done to fix the country now that you've lied your way into power. But he hasn't done that, which means for me, he's a piece of garbage. Especially
Yeah, but
when you add
Femi,
in
when are you going to tell us what you really think?
well, the thing is, like, from it was really really early on. It was 2020. It was when he did the what was it? When he said the thing about Israel has a right to defend itself, and yes, Israel can withhold power and food and water and gas. Like, yes, he corrected it a week later, but to say that in the first place and not correct yourself for a whole week means you are doing what we've seen throughout, which is government by focus group. He'd been told
Yeah,
that
but who's in
backing
these focus
Israel.
groups? Like,
I
who's he
know.
appealing to? You look at the polls. Then that more people agree with you, Femi, than they're not. Like, they are tanking in the polls. Starmer is the most unpopular prime minister ever.
Mm.
Like, but even more unpopular than this fucking Truss. That is insane. And like, okay, mate, you need to change direction. But I think a huge problem with what's happening with Labour at the moment isn't necessarily, the people at the top. It's the people advising the people at the top, and they're getting shit advice. They're getting this blue Labour contingent that's in Labour is just poisoning the whole party, and it's turning people who lifelong Labour voters against Labour. And
Mhm.
I've heard people say, many people, I'm never voting for them again after this. I feel
Yep.
so let down. I was so hopeful after 14 years of this Tory austerity, Brexit, COVID, Truss misery. Finally, we get rid of them. And what's replaced them has been, I don't know, even today, there was a report that came out that Britain's the second fastest growing economy in the G7. And to which, Rachel Reeves, anyone else would have gone, oh yeah, doing really well. Bit of boosterism. This is about the economy.
Mhm.
This is about how we feel. This is about, and she's like, yeah, but, people aren't feeling it, And I'm like, you're not supposed to say that. Me and you, we can say that. But there's a point where you got to go, look, we can do that. We got to give people a bit of enthusiasm. But Starmer spent the first 6 months in office just going on about how awful everything was until someone gave him a nudge and said, stop going on about how shit everything is, mate. And he went,
Yeah,
oh, okay,
but
I'll stop doing that.
so talking the economy down whilst not doing the things necessary to bring the economy up is a wild strategy. But you just reminded me in the links to the talking the country down versus and also the government by focus group. Did you see that there was a TikTok put out either by Labour or by Ed Miliband himself, which really captured my point about government by focus group and why Labour has no real vision. And it was Ed Miliband doing some jokey TikTok where he's walking back and forward in front of the camera, and the text is about. I heard that the reform is talking this country down, And that right there says everything you need to know. Because what you've got there is you're on TikTok doing some sort of dancey, sort of like a young Gen Z appealing thing, supposedly on paper.
Yeah.
The format of it is that. But the substance of it is typical reform, right wing, nationalist, oh, talking this country down, they don't believe in Britain, blah, blah, blah. That's how completely messed, like confused in the head they are. They're trying to appeal to everybody, both on the far right and the left, and it's coming out with absolute nonsense. Who is that video appealing to? Because any young person reading that text isn't going to care about this notion of talking the country down, because we know the country is doing horrendous things. And any older person who naturally leans towards reform is going to see them doing some stupid TikTok and be like, this isn't for me. Like, they're trying to aim down the middle and they're hitting nobody. It's like
They are. It's impressive. It's like in a movie where someone's got a gun and they're shooting like this, and the goodie's just running through all the bullets, and none of them hit. And you're like, "How did you miss? How you shot 1,000 bullets? How did they all miss?" Questionable Absanity, thank you so much for the first super chat of the evening. £2, thank you. Romania capital gains tax is 6% higher than income tax. But then another super chat from Questionable Absanity, Stuart's inquiry. Correction, it was 6% higher. It's now equal to income tax, which I agree with. I think it should be equal to, if not higher than income tax, because it's money, it's capital that you have not worked for. It's just something that's accrued in value. And yeah, I think you should have to pay a bit of tax on that. Thank you very much. Because, I went off on one about landlords the other day.
Oh, yeah.
After the Green Party said we should abolish landlords, and I was like, "Fuck yes!"
Yeah, I'm so 100% there. Like for me, I've been saying for a while that if I was in power, I would make the concept of owning more than one property, more than the property you live in, simply fiscally impractical.
Yes,
I put the tax on any second property would be taxed so highly that eventually you'd have to sell it back to the council, and then you got more council housing.
Yeah, exactly. That's how you do it. One Angry Pagan, thank you very much for the £2 super chat. Trump sent migrants to Sudan while talking about peace. Well, also he threatened to invade Panama and Greenland and Canada, and then went, "Oh, didn't know why I didn't win the Nobel Peace Prize." Maybe because you keep threatening to invade your neighbours, mate. So that might have had something to do with it. Or you send your own troops out to your own people in your own country who are dressed as inflatable frogs.
What I loved about that is you had the Nobel Peace Prize announcement, and the guy who was announcing it, he actually gave a big speech about why the person who won, Maria Corina Machado, why she won. And it was all this stuff about how she'd been promoting the principles of democracy in Venezuela. She'd stood up against authoritarianism. Basically, it was a list of reasons, hey, here's why we'll never give it to Trump. Because he's a fucking dictator. So he's a dictator.
You don't worry, you can swear on my channel. I don't mind.
Cool.
We have Wayne on here all the time. He swears like a docker. It's brilliant. In the chat, people are agreeing about Labour. I want to read this out to you because I think this is so on the nose. Sarah says, "My life has gotten so much worse since Labour came in. Trans rights removed. Constantly stressed because they want to take my disability benefits from me, and now I'm facing being homeless." So for Sarah, like, where's the win? Where's the end of the Tories and the beginning of a new dawn? It just, for a lot of people, they're really not feeling it, and I think it's a little bit naive for Labour to think that people will just feel better. We'll just say in a few years' time, life's better now. People are going, "Oh, what is it? Okay, yeah, I believe you." I just can't see it happening, and the dark side of this, the real dark side of this is, look, if all things being equal, if refuck wasn't a thing, who cares? Like, the Tories wouldn't win the next election anyway. Labour would win, maybe with a vastly reduced majority, maybe have to go into coalition with the Lib Dems and the Greens. That'd be great. But as things stand, refuck are going to fucking win. If there's an election tomorrow, refuck would win.
So in terms of Labour, it's the concept of public service simply doesn't appear to be in a lot of their heads, and that's
I think
because
in
I
the
think they
MPs it is. I think it's just that the upper echelons, what are they called, the cabinet.
so that argument only applies for a certain period of time. I think I did a TikTok recently about the difference between Cersei Lannister and
Taylor Green.
Marjorie Tyrell, um, in that season with the High Sparrow,
Yeah,
where you had um, uh, Cersei basically says, "Nah, get lost," and she ends up having to do the Walk of Shame. Um, and Marjorie Tyrell tries to work the system from within the system, and she stays within the system. But the problem with that is by submitting to being underneath the leadership of the High Sparrow, when you had the Dragonfire, whatever it was, not Dragonfire, the Green Fire that blew up the
yeah.
entire High Sept and blew up half of King's Landing,
Spoilers.
when she, yeah, even when she realized, wait, Cersei isn't here,
Yeah,
which
let's
means
get out. Let's
and
everyone
does
get out now.
everyone get out. I mean, she does not intend to face those consequences. She's aware of the consequences, even though she'd figured out that she shouldn't be there anymore
Yeah,
because she'd stayed in it for too long.
she couldn't get out.
She was then vulnerable to the consequences that faced that entire regime.
Yeah,
Similarly, any Labour MP that is staying within this system, thinking they can change it, you are being tarnished every single day with every act of genocide that Starmer's been supporting, every person who falls into poverty. Like it was earlier this year, their plans to cut welfare support. They explicitly said, they admitted that the OBR figures says this will push a further
yeah.
250,000 people into poverty. Like that's on your record now. So if you stay
But
in this party for
it
one
was the
second longer,
backbenchers, including my MP here, Mary Foy, who voted that down.
mm,
So being in the party, they could do that. If they weren't part of the party, they wouldn't be able to do that.
well, prior to an election, and I think knowing that Starmer is so scared of an election now because of where he is in the polls now means you can really kick up a fuss, rock the boat. Because if Starmer wants to kick you out, Starmer kicking you out of the party might mean you don't get elected again, but he's not going to call an
But
election.
staying in
And
the party is probably going to mean you don't get elected again. Mate, I was talking to members of the government at the party conference who were saying to me they won't win the next. As things stay as they are, they're going to lose their seat in the next election
yeah,
to
yeah.
reform.
Which is my point. That you are staying in that system that is, and then when the hellfire comes, it's going to come for you.
Yeah, but if they leave and become an independent, they'll lose anyway unless they're Jeremy Corbyn.
Well, I think if they are loud enough and saying, "Look, we believe," especially if they join with the Greens, if like 100 Labour MPs all said, "Nah, screw this. We want to tax the rich. We want to rejoin the EU. We want to change proportional representation. We want to oppose Israel, and we're joining the Greens on that basis." Oh my God, politics goes insane. Can you imagine if the Greens in like 2 weeks' time have like 200 MPs? There are things that Labour MPs could do that would significantly change things and protect their seats.
What the seats would vote for Green in the next election? I mean,
I reckon so. I mean, they're not voting Labour. We know that Labour's on
well,
track
yeah,
to
because
lose a whole bunch of seats.
they've got to go to reform. But again, like a lot of those polls that we're seeing, they take out the don't knows, and also most people aren't interested in politics, so it's not like they're asking people.
Also, Labour is losing more of its votes to the left than to the right. They're losing more of their
Yeah,
votes
that's
to the
true. That is true.
Greens and Lib Dems.
Yeah.
So like I said, that's where the vote share is. If you want, and because the reform's only ever going to get like maybe 31, 32 max percent of the votes. Like that's what we're talking about here. But they're still going to get, because the first past the post is still going to end up in charge.
You can get in charge with 30% of the vote. That is just crazy, isn't it? What a daft system. Like, explain it to someone. Take a step back. Explain the system. Well, this fella got a third of the votes, so we're going to put him in charge. So 2/3 of people voted against him. Yeah, they hate him. It's like,
which is why I want Andy Burnham to get himself a seat in Parliament, and then B, dethrone Starmer, because if that plan does actually happen in the next 2 years, we win. Because if Andy Burnham gets a seat in Parliament, Andy Burnham versus Keir Starmer in a leadership contest, Andy Burnham wins 10 times out of 10. And if he changes the voting system to one where all votes count equally before we get to the next election, then when Reform gets 32% of the vote max, they don't form a government, because the majority have always voted to the left in every election since World War II, we would have progressive politics for the rest of the UK's future. So we would straight up win.
Can I tell you something?
Yep.
You'll never guess who I voted for to be leader of the Labour Party 10 years ago.
There you go.
Anti-fucking Burnham, mate.
and the thing is, I guess I don't care about politicians. Like I have my own criticisms that Andy Burnham wasn't loud enough during the years where you and I met. Like he wasn't. There
was a point where he said if there was a second referendum, he'll vote to leave.
Oh God, that's my point. That's my point.
I mean, but then again, this is the thing. Like with politics, no one's ever going to have an unblemished record.
Exactly.
But it seems ridiculous now that when Zach Polanski's trying to make a point about taxing the rich. He's trying to make a point. He's on Question Time. He's trying to make a point about the fact that there was a guy working for Refuck who was also working for the Russians at the same time, reading out Russian talking points in the European Parliament, which Russia is not a part of. And they respond to, oh yeah, but you were a hypnotist who made girls' boobs bigger. And it's like, oh, for God's sake, like, in comparison.
Country's burning. Country's burning, and you're talking about actual traitors to the country selling secrets to Russia.
Yes.
What are you talking about?
But you said that, and also, like, did he assault these women? Did he physically assault them? Because the leader of America, who we fuck all love, he not only admitted sexually assaulting women, he's also an adjudicated rapist, and he was also accused in court by his first wife of rape. And she never took it back in court.
Let's go closer to home. James McMurdoch, like a literal MP of the Reform Party,
beat
sent
his
to
girlfriend,
prison
didn't he?
for repeatedly kicking his girlfriend. And it's not just that. I think people don't remember. It's not just that we had an MP who did that in the Reform Party. It's the response from both Nigel Farage and Richard Tice, because both of them were grilled on it heavily. Richard Tice's response was, "It doesn't matter what the courts say," and Nigel Farage's response was, "A conviction from that long ago is irrelevant." He used the word irrelevant. What does that say to every single woman who has been a victim of domestic violence? They do not care about the safety of women.
Oh, God, no.
They are on record as saying so.
Well, I mean, 2/5 of the people who went to the Southport riots last summer, record for domestic abuse. I just... These are not nice people. These are not people looking out for the rights of women. And now it looks like the anti-abortionists in America, who've had this huge win in America, overtaking Roe versus Wade, are coming here. They are putting money into... And Phil was saying in our chat earlier, it's like, oh, but that's just because America's different and they have all the Puritans and a lot more religious over there and stuff. And I'm like, well, actually, until the late 70s, but whether you were religious or not, you agreed with a woman's right to choose. It was only in the late 70s when they said, oh, we need to come together around one issue. It doesn't matter what Christian denomination you're part of. We need to come together and say, this is wrong. And they chose abortion.
Yeah.
They chose it. They made that
It's the
decision.
extent to which so many political debates aren't driven by ideology. It's just driven by gang mentality.
Yeah. Well, no one had a problem with the EU 15 years ago. It was 1% of people who responded to a survey in 2010 said that it was in their top 5 most important things in the country. But it was education, it was infrastructure, it was the economy, it was everything, the NHS, it was everything but the EU. No one cared. And then 5 years later, suddenly it's the most important thing in the world. Same with trans people existing. No one cared. 10 years ago, trans people got on with their lives. 20 years ago, a trans woman won Big Brother with the biggest vote share ever, the biggest number of votes ever. And it looked like, things were getting, gay marriage equality in 2013. It looked like things were getting better. And then suddenly, 10 years ago, all the billionaires got together and went, trans people.
Yep. What can we make people hate so they don't hate us? So we don't get the energy we need.
We need to redirect the hate, like a hate machine, a pretty hate machine. We need to directed towards the billionaires who deserve it. So I know this is supposed to be Geoscope, so we're supposed to be talking about world politics, but would you rather talk about the coup in Madagascar, or would you rather talk about Zach Polanski for the last 10 minutes?
I don't know much about the coup in Madagascar. So depends if you want to educate me or if you want to talk about stuff I know.
I don't know too much about the coup in Madagascar. It is
okay. Then let's stick to Zach.
Yeah, it's been quite a volatile place since there was a coup in 2009 when the elected president was taken out halfway through his term. A guy who ran the I Love Madagascar party. Look, if you're going to have a political party, call it that. If you're in Madagascar, I mean, it's no use if you live in Zimbabwe or something. But yeah, the I Love Madagascar. How can you not vote for that? And this guy, he wasn't part of the elite that normally run like countries like Madagascar. He or the Philippines. He wasn't part of any kind of dynasty. He was a kid who used to ride his bike from village to village selling yogurts when he was a kid. Barefoot, and he worked his way up. He became the mayor of Antananarivo, the capital, and then he became president. And he got a lot of investment into Madagascar. I was there in 2009. Lots of new roads built, a lot of new infrastructure coming in the ports and stuff. But the military didn't like him, so they got rid of him. And it's been pretty unstable ever since. It's been sort of 15 years now with this. But yeah, let's talk about Zach after I say thank you to Ms. Paula Thomas. Thank you very much for the £5 super chat. I think several London Labour MPs could lose their seats if the left got its act together, and they include Keir Starmer. Well, yeah, let's talk about Zach then. So Zach is pushing for green populism. I had a proper Barney with Phil on Friday because I was like, before we started the show, I'm like to Phil, so today's question is going to be, does Labour have anything to learn from Zach Polanski? And he just went, no. And I went, okay. Then we started the show. So it started there, and that's how he meant to go on. But I disagree. I think that what Zach is doing, a message of positivity, getting a grip on communications, doing talks, interviews with the likes of Gary Stevenson, and he spoke to Owen Jones, he spoke to Zoe Gardner. I mean, he's talking to all the right people. He's getting his name out there. He's on Question Time. He's saying things that is getting noticed. And I thought that the abolish landlords thing was fucking genius, because you had all these policies and they just called it abolish landlords because they knew that would get headlines, and it fucking did. Ed Davey knew this in the last election. He knew if he fell off a paddleboard in Lake Windermere, he'll be on the front cover of all the newspapers, and it worked. He got 70 MPs out of it.
What's messed up is, like, how much money do the Greens have? Like, if you could think about, like, because you'd obviously hire a PR firm or a public relations firm so that you could have some advice on how to win over the public.
Yeah.
Labour has so much more money, and yet how are they ended up at this?
I don't know.
Like you of all people have complained for years about
endlessly.
The extent to which they haven't taken social media seriously. Like, it took them ages to even have a YouTube channel.
They only campaign during election season for 6 weeks. That's it. They'll put out TikTok videos and YouTube videos. They'll put out tweets for 6 weeks out of every 5 years. And
the irony is, because my criticism of Labour is that they never leave campaign mode. Like, they're always, like, now they're in power, they're still acting as if they have to play for the Tory press when they have the ability to do anything they could possibly dream of, and yet they're still acting like they're in campaign mode. But at the same time, they're not doing the campaign stuff properly.
I wouldn't call it campaign mode, because I think they should be in campaign mode, but not for the papers, for us. For us, the general public. And the quickest and most effective way they can get to us is through social media, and they choose not to use it. They make getting in touch with your MP really, really inaccessible. You can email them. Bloody hell, what is this, 1997? Why are we emailing people? Like, they should be doing live streams all the time, and with the messages coming up on the screen, like they're coming up here on YouTube, and people saying, you're a bunch of dicks, whatever. Actually having people knowing that they're having what they've written having it read out and having that two-way conversation that the internet provides. Hilgara, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. Oh, it's Femi. Says Hilgara, I highly respect your inner strength and drive in the face of the never-ending fight for equality. Gives me motivation, mate. Thanks. Aww. Oh, that's lovely. I'm going to put a thank you. You're the best. Animation up. There you go. That's for Hilgara.
And on the topic of Zach, in terms of like appearing personable and actually connecting with people on a human level, I just watched a video of Zach. I think it was on Geopolitics. I'm not sure, but he was talking about the notion of being a green, and it really struck with me because like one of the main reason that I've struggled to join the Green Party in any kind of official way, one of the main reasons is because I would feel like a hypocrite because of how much meat I eat. Like I just had a steak, and I would feel like
that was a mistake.
Exactly.
Squeaky tongue.
I would feel like I was being fraudulent in some way, but he said, look, I don't. He says he doesn't do all this stuff. He doesn't fly. Doesn't do this, this. He recycles. He doesn't. He's vegetarian or vegan. I'm not sure what he said, but he says that he doesn't do that necessarily on principle or because he's green. He has to do that. He does that because he knows that the right wing press would crucify him if he didn't do those things. But for ordinary people, you do what you can. It's not about saying if you haven't done all these green things, then you're somehow not a green person. Because especially given no ethical consumption under capitalism, the real people that are actually polluting the planet are the big businesses. It's about changing the laws to prevent this from happening. And he even said like all the things that I do that are supposedly the perfect green, it's all bullshit. He used the word bullshit. And that kind of rawness coming from the left is so refreshing.
It is. And the idea that you don't have to be perfect. That is one of the things that drives me up the wall about our side is like the purity tests and like, oh, I'm sorry. And this is when, you know, I had a run-in with Owen Jones a few years ago at the Labour Party conference, and he was saying that I wasn't a real Labour supporter or a Labour member or something because I had not just voted against Labour in the past, I'd stood against Labour in the past. And I'm like, yeah, you know, in the very first election that I voted in 1997, it was a national election and it was also a general election and also a local election in Liverpool. I voted Labour nationally, but locally I voted Lib Dems, and I'm fucking glad I did. The Lib Dems got in from 97 to 2010, and I think they were really good for Liverpool. They were years when Liverpool did really well. And then Labour got back in 2010, and they've been shit, mate. They've been fucking shit. We've had that huge scandal involving Joe Anderson, Chippy Tits, who gave his son, or his son's company, or his nephew's company, a big contract to dismantle this flyover in the city centre, and the whole thing reeked of corruption. And we ended up, sort of being back to square one, and going back to Liverpool now. There's a lot of places that just haven't been maintained. So they were made good when we got loads of money coming in. We got the European Capital of Culture. We got a new city centre built. And a lot of it hasn't been maintained. And I understand like that some of that is the fact that central government funding has been cut by 49% for the council. But at the same time, the Labour locally haven't been great in Liverpool, I think. And I was really upset when the new mayor, when we lost our UNESCO World Heritage Site listing, and she was just like, "Oh well, who cares? It's just a list. Who cares?" And I was like, I hate it when someone says, "Who cares?" and you're like the only one in the room going, "Me, I care." Yeah, but yeah, the purity tests have got to stop, and I think that Zach is quite right in that saying. I think that's a very sensible stance to have. Because I feel like attacked all the time by certain elements of the left just because of the way I live my life. I do eat meat, and and it seems to make me want to feel bad about it. I was saying this on the Sunday roast the other day. The left are very good at making people feel bad about themselves, whereas the right are really good at making bad people feel great about themselves. Racists and idiots. I'm with Zach on that.
I saw a TikTok earlier today, or I can't remember, some sort of meme, basically saying, just know that right now, the worst person you know is being told by ChatGPT that they're absolutely right.
Oh, fuck yeah, you're right. Oh, Jesus. Jesus. That's a great idea. Yeah, let's talk about this. You come up with great ideas.
Yeah.
Graham Price, who's been a member for 22 months on the channel, says, I concur. Great to see Femi on the channel. Thumbs up. And you get a lot of love in the chat, Femi, and that people saying that they want you coming on the Friday night show next time you can get on. You know, see, the thing is, Femi's far too popular, and he's got better things to do on a Friday night. That's why Terry Christian's never on there. Do you know Terry's excuse? He says, I'm either out on a Friday night or I don't want people to know that I'm not out on a Friday night. I'm like, thanks a bunch, Tezza. But yeah, Band of Harp Jays is saying, sorry, Harp Japs is saying, I'll fail about 75% of purity tests. Yeah, we've all fucked up in the past. But just because you voted for, Jeremy Corbyn to be leader back in 2015 or in 2017 doesn't mean you couldn't vote for Keir Starmer to be the leader. That would not be hypocritical. Like later on, I mean, if Andy Burnham does become an MP again and stand for leader again, if you voted for Keir Starmer, you can vote for Andy Burnham if you think he'll make a better leader.
If I had been in the party in 2015, I would almost certainly have voted for Jeremy Corbyn, because I remember at the time my literally very first YouTube video I ever made was defending Jeremy Corbyn against the attacks from David Cameron at the time. So I was a massive fan of the guy. And then when I did become a member after the 2019 election, I did vote for Starmer purely on the basis of the other options were Lisa Nandy and Rebecca Long-Bailey, both of whom have been even worse than Starmer on Brexit. And so it was just the obvious choice. Yeah. And now here we are.
Here we are. Yeah, well, a week's a long time in politics, so it's okay. It's okay to change your mind. As Liz Truss famously said, she said, you can't change your mind about Brexit. And they went, but you did. Because she campaigned to remain.
Yep.
That is a disgrace.
It's genuinely difficult looking back at her, because she actually there's a video of her making the argument about the single market and doing it better than I've seen either Cameron or Corbyn do it in the entire time that referendum campaign was going on. Yeah. So she's not an idiot. That's the more important thing. She's had to purposefully lobotomize herself in order to move to the right. Yeah.
But I do think she's had a lobotomy, mate. I do think there's something gone horribly wrong there. But yeah, I am hopeful that cause here's what gives me hope, okay? And you might think I'm finding hope in a ridiculous place here, right? But it's the fact that Labour are just doing so badly in the polls. Like, how can they not panic? How can they not look at that and go, shit, we are going in the wrong direction? You know, like in Layer Cake when these hardened criminals are sharing a jail cell with a hippie who made like £5 million in the last year from selling drugs, and they're like, we're in our fucking business, mate. You know, it's like we're doing it wrong. Whatever they're doing, they're doing it wrong, and it's not just us. It's not just us saying it. It's not just Femi, going on F politics saying, what a bunch of idiots. The polls, the people who vote, are saying we don't want this. This is something we do not want. This is not what we were expecting. And
it's genuinely maddening.
One of the things I heard about Starmer is that he doesn't dream. And he has trouble visualizing things. And you said earlier that you don't think he's got any vision. And I think that's quite telling in the way that he puts himself across. He does appear quite mechanical. And I think another thing they can learn from Zach Polanski is what you just mentioned about him having a bit of a human touch. He seems relatable. Yeah. He seems like someone you could have a pint with. I have had a pint with Zach Polanski, so, take it from me. He's a nice guy to have a pint with.
But literally, Starmer gave a speech where he said, on Brexit, on climate change, on inequality, we are the party of the center ground. So you're literally admitting to being white bread.
Yes.
Eh,
But Labour do this, you know. Historically, Labour have been quite left wing when they've been out of power. Once they're in power, they're like, yeah, we'll just be the centrists now that we always
mhm.
secretly are. I mean, the people have this mythologized vision of like Labour from back in the day, which isn't actually true. It's they were never particularly right on. I mean, maybe when Michael Foot was in charge, but they were in opposition. You know,
That's the problem with the two-party system. It means that whenever, in order to get into power, they keep having to move to the center,
yeah,
rather than actually be a left-wing party.
yeah, yeah, and it doesn't give us something to vote for. All we're ever
Hmm.
doing is voting against something, and you know, unfortunately, unless Labour change something in the next couple of years and get PR in, or even a single transferable vote, I think that would be preferable. So I can vote, you know, 1 Green, 2 Lib Dem, 3 Labour, whatever, and just not give a vote to refuck.
I am very, very worried about anything that's multiple choice, purely on the basis of uh, in 2011 that didn't manage that's what lost. The alternative vote lost in 2011. B, they make the argument of we've already had a vote. It's the same shit they say about Brexit. We already voted, blah 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 blah. I know it's been, well, almost 15 years, but still. So, and I think that the benefits of PR, ideally regional PR, so
Mm,
like say West Midlands has 10 MPs and then you split it up based on vote share. I think that's the best way to go about it, because it gives you something genuinely new to vote for, which you've never voted
yeah.
for before, and it guarantees that that every party gets a real fair shake, more or less.
Well, I think you're right, and I think that, but explaining what form of PR we'd like to see is important, because it's not good enough to just say we the first past the post system is fucked. I think everyone will agree with that. But having a system that we can get behind as a positive and say, hey, this will be a better system. Let's do this. And I completely agree about making it more regional and just giving people more of a say in their lives. And one of the big
Yep.
issues that people have in their life is that they just don't feel listened to. And you know what? Sometimes we shouldn't listen to people, because you end up with Boaty McBoatface or, you know, the Snyder Cut, and we didn't need that in our lives. But you know, at least people who feel like they've been heard are less likely to do crazy shit, like, I don't know,
Oh
vote for
yeah, yeah, yeah,
refuck.
yeah. It's the reason that Take Back Control was such a powerful message, because people didn't have not had control
Yeah.
of their politics for a very long time. You mentioned the Snyder Cut. I need to, before we finish, I just want to make sure. You know, you're with me on the fact that the new Superman is the best Superman film of
It's
all time,
so
right?
good, mate. I
Okay,
clapped.
cool.
I fucking clapped. It's the
Yeah.
best DC. It's the best DC film since the Lego Batman movie. I just got to the end and went, that was perfect. No notes. Like, normally, I'm not a big Superman fan because he is a big Boy Scout,
Hmm.
but brilliant. I thought it was ace. I really, really enjoyed it. So
I
yeah,
was
with you on
20
that.
minutes in, and I turned, 20 minutes in, and I turned to my mate and was like, "This is the best Superman film I've ever seen,"
Yeah,
and that was because it was just like towards the end of that argument between Lois and Clark
yeah,
over going into, well, effectively Palestine,
yeah.
and
Palestine.
stopping stopping them from going in.
Yeah,
That was a genuinely human response from Clark, who does have the Boy Scout thing of I just want to do good.
yeah,
People were going to die,
yeah.
and I thought
But it's just not the way it's
it
done.
was so human.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. And look, you know, Batman can be as dark as you like. I don't care. I still prefer the 1960s version myself. But like, you know, have him as the Dark Knight. Yeah, that's fine. I
Yeah.
don't care. But
Yeah.
Superman, no. Don't
It's
have
supposed to
dark
be
and
like, no.
broody Superman. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
It's like having dark and broody Zebedee from fucking Magic Roundabout. Why would you have a dark and moody Zebedee? That doesn't make. Anyway. Just
And Henry Cavill, as much as like he looks awesome, but like the constantly the same face, no matter what's happening. It's just
He's very good as The Witcher.
like, yeah,
Less good
like
as Superman.
like you can probably think of it. You can probably imagine the face that he made when he stood in that courtroom and it all blows up. Like it's just a. Like, it's ridiculous, but like, and the best analogy of it was analysis of it was somebody said that Henry Cavill's Superman was a power fantasy, whereas the new Superman is a goodness fantasy.
Yeah.
Henry Cavill's Superman was just like, wouldn't it be cool to be so powerful, smashing through buildings? Whereas the fantasy that you're given with the new Superman is, what if this guy was just a really good guy?
Yeah.
Like, and it
Trying
was,
to do his best.
Exactly.
In a
And
world
that line
full of tech
of
bros.
and that line of where he's like, you're gonna go into this pocket dimension to save a dog. He's not even a good dog, but he's probably alone and he's probably scared. Like that level of just goodness from your Superman. Oh, it was so good.
Loved it. Anyway, we're going to leave it at that. If you keep watching, we're going to shunt you over to Maximilian's stream, which started a few moments ago. So you do not adjust your set, your phone or your laptop or wherever you're watching this on. And I just want to say a huge thank you to Femi Oluwole for coming on this evening to talk about what's going on in Palestine and also what's going on in this country. So I hope you enjoyed that. I'll be back at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning for Morning Brew. And until then, thanks for watching. Hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.